Imagine it's the year 2026.
Okay.
You're in Sri Lanka, and you're just walking through the halls of this monastic educational center.
Right.
And on one side, you hear the deep rhythmic vibrations of like 1,000-year-old Pali chants just echoing through an open courtyard.
Beautiful, yeah.
But then you step into the next room and you're suddenly surrounded by the hum of servers, glowing screens, and young monks intensely debating the UX design of a new digital learning platform.
It's quite the contrast.
It really is. I mean, you are standing right at the collision point between these ancient foundational traditions and the absolute bleeding edge of modern digital communication.
Yeah, and it's a jarring image for a lot of people, I think, because we have this collective tendency to view ancient monastic traditions as, artifacts encased in glass.
Right, like they're stuck in time.
Exactly, like they're something entirely static and insulated from all the noise of the modern world. But the reality of the Inter-Piriven language and literature competition happening in Matara, it just shatters that assumption completely.
It really does.
What we're actually looking at is a living, breathing, and honestly highly aggressive adaptation strategy.
Yeah, it's an educational ecosystem that simply refuses to be left behind.
It sounds incredibly archaic, doesn't it?
It feels rebellious, honestly. I mean, in a world dominated by predictive text, voice-to-text algorithms, and AI writing assistants, dedicating serious academic energy to perfect handwriting feels like hosting a competition for the world's best telegraph operator.
That's a funny way to picture it.
Why does a futuristic 2026 curriculum care so much about holding a pen?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the act of handwriting here has absolutely nothing to do with the physical text on the page.
Right.
Yeah, it's not about the data output. It is a biofeedback loop designed to cultivate a very specific psychological state. Handwriting, when done with intense focus on spacing, consistency, and flow, is actually an active physical practice of mindfulness.
Oh, I see. The pen basically becomes an anchor.
Exactly. Think about it. When a student is forced to exert fine motor control over every single stroke of a Sanskrit character or an English cursive word, they cannot be thinking about their phone or what they're having for their next meal.
Right, they have to be dialed in.
They do. It forces the central nervous system to slow down. It trains the brain to sustain attention on a microtask for a prolonged period.
So the handwriting competition is really evaluating their patience, their discipline, and their capacity to be totally present in the current moment.
Precisely.
The medium is the message. They're using a physical task to sculpt an internal virtue. And I noticed that same mechanism applied to the drawing competitions too in the source docs.
Oh yeah, the drawing component is fascinating.
The students are tasked with illustrating Jataka stories, which are classical tales of the Buddha's past lives, as well as themes of environmental conservation.
Drawing serves a very similar cognitive function to the handwriting. Take a Jataka story, for instance.
Okay.
These are often really complex fables dealing with abstract moral dilemmas, things like extreme self-sacrifice, radical compassion, or the long-term consequences of greed.
Heavy stuff.
Very. So when a young monk is tasked with drawing that, they have to wrestle an abstract philosophy into a concrete visual reality.
They literally have to make a choice about what compassion actually looks like on a piece of paper.
Yes, and combining that ancient storytelling tradition with modern urgencies like environmental conservation, it creates this fascinating synthesis in the student's mind.
Right, blending the old and the new.
Exactly. It teaches observation and patience, but it also forces them to realize that the ancient morals they study are immediately applicable to the ecological crises happening right outside their window today.
It's forcing the ancient wisdom to map directly onto contemporary reality. But out of all these physical disciplines, the one that struck me as the most demanding is the verse recitation and composition.
Oh, absolutely.
They are composing original poetry in Sinhala, Pali, and Sanskrit, and then physically reciting it out loud.
Poetry holds a highly revered space in Buddhist literature because the constraint of meter and rhythm forces a real distillation of thought.
That makes sense.
When students compose original verses on themes like gratitude or peace, they aren't just writing essays, they are trying to capture profound truths within very strict architectural limits.
Which requires a huge vocabulary.
A mastery of vocabulary, yes, and a really deep well of creativity.
But the recitation, the actual chanting of these verses, is where it becomes incredibly somatic, right? The judging criteria look at rhythm, pronunciation, expression, and breath control. It sounds almost musical, but it's deeper than just a performance.
It is deeply somatic. Think about the physiological mechanics of chanting in Pali. It requires a very specific cadence, a highly controlled exhalation of breath, and a distinct resonance in the chest and vocal cords. When a hall of monks chants together, they literally synchronize their breathing.
Wow, so it's physiological alignment.
Precisely. Recitation is not rote memorization for them. It's an ancient technology for encoding complex information into the human body.
That is so wild.
By internalizing that rhythm, the students literally vibrate with the tradition. It bypasses the purely intellectual brain and roots the teachings right into their muscle memory and their respiratory system.
It must build an unshakable inner confidence, because the knowledge isn't just in a book on a shelf somewhere, it's living inside their own breath.
Exactly.
But, you look at the entirety of this preparation, the sheer cognitive load of the 5-language grid, the intense mindfulness of the handwriting, the visual problem-solving of the drawing, and the physiological encoding of the chanting.
It's a lot.
It's a completely immersive conditioning program. But it begs the question of output. Once they have built this highly disciplined, multilingual scholar, how do they launch them into the chaos of the real world?
Well, that is the ultimate test. The Piriven system isn't designed to produce hermits who just sit quietly with perfect handwriting all day.
Right.
It is designed to produce active, capable leaders, and that culminates in the Dhamma preaching evaluations.
So what does this all mean? How do you take all that internal work and project it outward? Because in the Matara event, they evaluate Dhamma preaching in Sinhala, English, and Tamil.
Preaching is considered one of the absolute highest duties of a monk. But the judging here is brutal in its comprehensiveness.
How so?
It is not enough to simply read a script or recite a text accurately. The evaluators are looking for voice modulation, audience engagement, magnetic confidence, and crucially, the practical application of the Dhamma.
Meaning they have to read the room.
Very much so.
They have to take a 2,500-year-old concept, translate it into English or Tamil in real time, and make it directly relevant to the specific pain points of the people sitting right in front of them.
Yes. They are acting as a real-time translation layer between ancient wisdom and modern suffering.
Wow.
If they are preaching in Sinhala, they might be addressing local community disputes. If they are preaching in English, they might be addressing the existential anxiety of an international visitor.
They have to pivot constantly.
They are trained to be psychological first responders, adapting their linguistic tools and their presence to whatever the moment requires.
But standing in front of a crowd and preaching is still a fundamentally traditional mode of communication. The real twist in the Matara 2026 curriculum, the element that truly surprised me when reading the documents, is their mandate for digital innovation and creativity.
Right, the tech component.
They are actively demanding that these students present new digital learning resources, online Dhamma materials, and interactive educational projects.
It is a radical inclusion for a system that is so heavily invested in ancient tradition.
It really is. This raises an important question. How do you reconcile a tradition that believes so deeply in the slow, mindful practice of handwriting and the physical resonance of chanting with the dopamine-driven, hyper-accelerated world of digital tech?
It's a huge clash.
Doesn't the very nature of modern technology, the algorithms, the endless scrolling, the constant distraction, directly threaten the virtues they are trying so hard to preserve?
That is the central friction of our era, isn't it? Every educational system on the planet is currently wrestling with that exact paradox. But the Piriven framework tackles it with a remarkably clear-eyed pragmatism.
How so?
They do not view technology as inherently evil, nor do they view it as some kind of savior. They view it as an incredibly powerful but entirely neutral amplifier.
Neutral amplifier.
Yeah.
So the medium isn't the message here, the intent is the message.
Precisely. The core philosophy driving this digital mandate is relevance. If the Piriven system ignores the digital landscape entirely, they essentially forfeit their ability to speak to the next generation. People live on screens now.
Right. If you're not there, you don't exist.
Exactly. If the Dhamma isn't accessible there, it risks fading into obscurity. The critical condition they place on this innovation, though, is that the content must be deeply rooted in ethical principles.
So if a young monk codes a new app for learning Pali, or designs an online module for meditation, the tech is just the new temple wall.
That's a great way to put it.
The algorithms and the code are modern, but the architectural integrity of the project has to be built on the compassion, the discipline, and the deep study we've been talking about.
They are essentially trying to colonize the digital space with mindfulness.
I love that phrase.
Instead of retreating from the noise of the internet, they are training these young scholars to wade directly into it. But they're armed with profound psychological stability so they can offer a steadying voice. They are combining ancient wisdom with modern delivery systems to ensure the teachings survive the digital transition.
It's a totally fearless approach.
Yeah.
They aren't hiding from the 21st century. They are actively training to shape its moral trajectory.
And that brings into focus what this Matara 2026 event actually accomplishes at the end of the day. Beyond the language skills, the chanting, or the coding, the entire gauntlet is designed to forge emotional resilience and character.
Right.
When you put a student through an ordeal this multifaceted, you are building essential soft skill.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll leave you to think on that.